I love when things come together in a very magical way. I'm really looking for that kind of elements when things really, and all of a sudden, woo, you know. Photography to me is very much like a dance. Your own body physically moves into a landscape, in an environment, and it's your eye, your body who moves in this environment, which trying to find the thing you really like and you're really excited about and which makes sense. And that's really wonderful. I really miss when I don't take pictures for a time, is this.
Hi there. Harry Gruyaert said that when he was growing up, his home had a very strict hierarchy. God, the Pope, then his father. This stifling existence made him want to leave his Belgium home as soon as possible and discover the world. He feels that he was very fortunate because from a very young age he knew that cinema or photography were the routes that he was going to follow. The only problem was that his father was completely opposed to him becoming a photographer. He later found out that he and Saul Leiter had this in common. Leiter's father went as far as disinheriting him because of his decision to become a photographer. Even though Gruyaert didn't discover Leiter's photographs until later in life, their work has many similarities. Both explored the graphic and emotive potential of color photography. They also both initially shot in black and white and were influenced by the art of Pierre Bonnard. You can see from these paintings why they were both so fond of his work. His use of color fields, and he's able to suggest mood by varying his palettes. Even though Leiter's style is probably easier to recognize, they share an intense engagement with the process of creating form through color. Gruyaert's father eventually became very proud of what he had achieved, although Gruyaert believes that he was more impressed by his title Vice President of Magnum than he ever was about his photographs. Gruyaert left Belgium as soon as he could and pursued two career paths. He thought about becoming a filmmaker and worked as a director of photography for television documentaries. But he eventually realized that he wanted to put his energy into his own photography. He got into fashion thinking that he could travel with beautiful women as well as get paid. But he found that he wasn't really interested in the details of the clothing trade.
When I was starting to do fashion, I liked the idea of all the beautiful girls, which was fun. And then when I started to travel, I started to be more interested in the place. I went to travel with the girls, and the whole atmosphere. So after a while, I dropped the girls and the fashion, and I just walked on the place. It's me and the culture. You know, I'm excited about what I see. You know, it's about pleasure. It's about liking things. About being excited. It's about no other intention than sheer joy of looking.
His new love of travel and his cinematic experience provided two important foundations for the development of his photography. In addition, he shifted from black and white to color. When photographing in his home country, Belgium, he found life to be bland, and black and white seemed the best approach to documenting what he saw. Two significant trips impacted his transition to color. In 1969, he traveled to Morocco and was delighted by how the light enlivened this already multicolored environment. He later moved to New York, where he discovered American photographers who were embracing color, like Joel Meyerowitz, William Eggleston, and Stephen Shaw. But he also encountered pop art. It taught him to, in his words, to look differently at banality, to accept a kind of ugliness in the world and to do something with it. He learned that to work in color requires one to compose differently. Color itself becomes the essential element. He describes the process of working in color as physical, an act that originates from the stomach. While working in black and white, he found to be more brain-centered. By adjusting the picture's color scheme, one influences the mood of the photograph. Cold tones can provoke feelings of sadness or loneliness, while warmer tones might suggest tenderness or joy. So for him, color became a powerful mood-enhancing tool. A lot of his photographs consist of three primary colors: red, blue, and yellow. He often uses two of them or all of them with muted backgrounds. The blandness amplifies the viewer's awareness of the presence of color. He plays about with color combinations, probably not consciously while taking the pictures, but relying on years of education from staring at paintings in museums and observing the use of color in cinema. In some, he combines analogous colors, which means he includes colors that fall next to each other on the color wheel. These pictures become easy on the eye and have a peaceful or comfortable mood. Sometimes he strips the photographs of color by shooting scenes that look monochromatic. These behave like black and white photos and emphasize the details within the image. Gruyaert's colors draw the viewer in, but his power comes from his capacity to create a narrative within a single image. On one level, he's showing us something, but once we become engaged, he prompts us to feel something.
If I don't take pictures, I don't feel that good. I mean, I really need to take pictures. It's a way of living. It's a way of liking things. It's a way of living. It's a therapy as well. I spend too much time printing or working on books and things like that, and I don't go on the street and don't shoot. I miss it. I mean, I say, Jesus, I have to get out. I have to. It's a relationship to life.
His inclusion into Magnum in 1982 wasn't without controversy. His pop culture influences and lack of interest in photojournalism didn't sit well with members like Robert Capa and Rennie Bury. At that time, the agency was strongly orientated towards journalism. Gruyaert describes the agency as a big family where things are sometimes wonderful and sometimes horrible. The humanistic tradition was an important component of the Magnum brand, particularly for the French members like Cartier-Bresson. Gruyaert was more interested in how all of the elements work together. Decor, shapes, light, even cars become equally important as human figures. So all of his components contribute different textures to his compositions, which becomes a very different attitude towards picture making. Gruyaert describes himself as a documentary photographer, but he's happy if people view his work as art. He says that there's no story, it's just a question of shapes and light. But I don't think that's the full answer to describe what he's been up to for the past 6 decades. If his interest was solely about taking interesting pictures of things, both he and we would have got bored with the work. You can find massive commercial archives full of interesting, colorful images, but in the end they become reduced to stock images used for illustration. Even though he generally doesn't work with a concept in mind, he's engaging deeply and employing a highly informed visual understanding. So we are seeing and feeling what he's experiencing within a particular place and time. When he's taking a picture and maybe feeling loneliness or isolation, we get the message that he's sending. This project, East-West, provides us with an opportunity to explore the complexity of his approach. The work can be interpreted in a number of ways. The Los Angeles and Las Vegas pictures were taken in 1981, while those from Moscow were made 8 years later. His open approach to photographing allows him to pull together work that was made in 2 vastly different countries and in 2 different time periods. Viewing subjects from a broad vantage point allows him to blend ideas and even projects, thereby creating connections and emphasizing contrasts. Through his awareness of color, he was able to express the mood of both locations. His work from Moscow was made during a period when the Soviet Union was collapsing, so the society was in a state of uncertainty and turmoil.
But the colors I discovered in Moscow, which I never seen before, were very, very subdued, not at all powerful, very very different palette. It was like a painter get all different colors all of a sudden, and it's really exciting. So it was this wonderful period where things became completely open. The wall broke down like a couple of months later.
The colors are muted and cinema-like, and the scenes have a smoothness compared with the commercialism of the United States. Everything was opening up and change was in the air, but Gruyaert was far more interested in the color palette than he was in the politics. Here, Gruyaert captures elements of color as if he was using a soft focus lens. Compared to his US work, his compositions are populated with people instead of objects. Russia isn't a car country. Society happens on the streets. Whereas his photographs from Las Vegas and LA show a world that is spectacular, but at the same time the scenes seem unsuitable for human beings. One gets a sense that Gruyaert views America as carefree, full of promise, but at the same time lonely. The colors are saturated, almost neon, and together with the intense light, one becomes confronted with the aggressive pursuit of wealth.
Yeah, I found Vegas exciting for me, but in the same time, I didn't like the place at all. I mean, it was like living in hell somehow. So dramatic as well, so lonely, so, you know, everything related to the dollar, hoping to get rich, the vulgarity, but interesting elements to work with, you know, all those crazy colors, crazy mentality. And in the end, the contrast between capitalism and communism is fantastic. The shape, the colors and everything is so different that both eliminate each other.
Gruyaert's practice is probably more akin to that of a painter rather than, say, a photojournalist. Each time he goes out to photograph, he's seeking beauty in whatever scene he encounters. Through his language of color, he creates a symmetry from the confusion of elements.
You work in different places, like in a different way. For example, in Cairo, in Egypt, or in places in India where there's so many things going on at the same time. You know, I love it, and I try to make order. You know, I try to make order where people fall in place. You know, that thing in terms of composition works. If you have everything going on at the same time, you know, it's too complex. I have the impression I start to understand something when I frame.
I remember in 2010, I found myself in a similar situation to Gruyaert. We were both on the outside of Paris Photo looking to find a way in. He gave me this book called Moscow, and it's dated, so I know my timing's correct. I remember thinking that his work was so much more complex and perceptive than the majority of photographs that I'd seen inside the Paris Photo space. Since that time, the art world seems to have widened its appreciation of visual narration, and they've at last embraced Gruyaert's ambiguous approach to expression. In the same way that Robert Capa was initially doubtful about Gruyaert's suitability for Magnum membership, it's taken time for the photography world to recognize his contribution. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I was living for a little while in London, and I had these crazy televisions at home, which just moving the antenna in the wires, I get really extremely dense colors and really weird, wonderful things. It became very creative. I had somebody with me, which was moving the antenna and moving the wires. I said, stop it, and back and forward, moving physically towards the screen and moving back. want to be completely open, and it's certain things attract me, and it works in both ways. Things attract me, and I attract things. I understand things better when I have my camera than when I don't.